We wanted to stage an outstanding fight, and that just by itself there is a challenge.
The system is different. American, the director, have a lot of power to do this, do this, do this. Of course, they need a studio proof. Hong Kong sometimes they have a lot of freedom. They do this, do this, do this. They don't need a studio proof. They just do this, do whatever they want right away. They change this, change this. Both sides have good thing, both sides have bad thing.
On this film, it's a little bit different than most. I've worked very closely with Corey Ewing, who is the fight choreographer. What we do is we'll go in together and we'll talk about it, and Corey's been wonderful in terms of looking for other input, and we'll toss around ideas together. I'm actually very amazed. I mean, Corey comes up with some very creative different types of fights that I haven't seen in the past.
This movie is a little different than other martial arts movies that you've seen. We try to keep the wire technique to a minimum. We utilize more of Jet Li's martial arts ability. He's so good at it. The audience wants to see the way he fights.
Corey is a very close friend of mine, and so we know each other very well. He knows what I can do. I know what the best way to choreograph the movement. So that's why we always work together.
Okay.
Just given the nature of this film, rehearsals are essential. So I'll go out and videotape some rehearsals and run them by Jim, and then we'll talk some more, and we kind of fine-tune it to the point where then he'll sign off on it, and then we'll go shoot it.
Usually we decide all the movement, then like the stuntman to test some reaction, safe, not just for me, even for my partner or the other person fight with me. We need to show our actor, show to the director, it's safe to do this, then I decide to do it.
Jet is very smart with action. I mean, you tell him, something, and instantly he gets it. He's very quick.
And so at that point, we'll look at it and say, how can we enhance this? And we do that through our technology, using various types of, wire gags, pneumatic ratchets, and so forth. So it's kind of a combination of East meets West, and I think it's worked out quite well.
We can't really show you moving as fast as being able to dodge bullets unless we stretch the time, right?
Director James Wong wanted to save the bad Jet Li and the good Jet Li's confrontation to the very end. And that is the first time that they come together on that catwalk. And because the catwalk is really high up, it's like 20, 30 feet up in the air, and it's really narrow too. So there's a lot of danger involved. And we have, Jet and our stunt guys, rehearsed a lot of times. So they're comfortable with the surrounding. Just because it's so high up, and we can't have them on safety wire because they need to move and they need to do all these fights.
Usually for big action movie, it takes 2 weeks to finish the whole ending scene. We took 4 weeks, only the one scene, 4 weeks.
You came here for me. Now I'm here for you.
The second challenge we had was there's the superhuman aspect of these fighters, in that they can do things that are faster than we can see, stronger.
How in the world do you do that? When I started on the movie, it had a very different makeup. The Rock was playing the lead role, and the fighting style had been very different than Jet's. More street brawl kind of fighting. When that changed and Jet became the lead in the movie, it changed the nature of the movie. we, at the beginning, had a lot of the same signature shots. The chorus line fight, and this is what we call the sequence in the loading dock, where Jet is fighting 4 cops, and he is going at one speed and the cops are going at another speed. The first thing we tried was actually having live actors, and we had one actor being hit and being photographed at 120 frames a second, and then looking at that playback and then having the actor who's going at normal speed hit the points at the right point, so he looked like he was being hit in high speed and slow speed, and putting those together. And that was interesting, but it really didn't work that well because it was so cumbersome. It was so cumbersome photographically to actually photograph 4 actors being hit and being photographed in slow speed, and then having Jet go around and hit these invisible points and make it feel like everything was integrated. So it was really an impossible task to do that photographically, and limiting. So we decided that the best way to really do this would be to make CG cops. So here you see Jet fighting green tennis balls. And basically the green tennis balls are in the place of where the CG cops are going to be. So he knows exactly where in space he needs to hit. And that gives you a frame of reference.
No person, no people. I need to imagine, oh, here I have one guy. There I have one guy. Then say, no, you missed that. I missed that. The ball only this big.
A funny thing about this shot is that in the first preview, of course the CG wasn't completed yet, so this shot of Jet with the green tennis balls was in the sequence. And the audience went wild. They thought it was fantastic. They thought it was some exotic training technique that Jet was doing with these green tennis balls. And they loved it. After photographing him with the green tennis balls, took the tennis balls out, and then had him go through the action again without the tennis balls. And Jet is incredible as a mover and just as a physical actor, because he is completely able to hit the same place at the same time repeatedly. And it's very unique to be able to do that and stay in performance. This sequence has numerous techniques, cyber-scanned actors that were modeled and placed in the environment. There are artificial floors, their lights are added in computer lighting techniques, a lot of things to make this shot look real. And really the essence of it and the whole thing you want to take away from it is that Jet is fighting at one speed and everyone is reacting very slow, and so slow that they can't keep up with it. So as they move around, he is just able to punch them in the head or hit them in the gut or flip them, and do that with ease because he is so fast.
Holy shit! He's doing 50!
We decided to use a technique where when he's really moving in super speed, one way is to just show him really going really fast, but how is that, he would be sort of like a blur to us. What we decided to do is to change perception of how we see ourselves.
In the climax of the fight sequence, all these sparks come out and surround Yulaw and Gabe as they're fighting. The opening sequence, you see all the sparks there in real time, and as soon as they make contact, the sparks slow down, and everything is slow during that sequence. So to do that, we needed to photograph Jet and his stunt double at 24 frames a second, normal speed as they're fighting, and the background we had to shoot at 120 frames a second, so it would appear to be very slow. Now, we had sparks all over the place, and sparks hitting them and sparks surrounding them. So we really did a combination of live photography of sparks shot at high speed and animation, which we could simulate the look of the high-speed sparks.
Of course, some, run to the fire room, or jump from the helicopter, jump down, they don't allow us to do this. They have a special class, special double, stuntman to do this kind of thing, do this kind of move.
That was one of my stuntmen, David Wald, and what we did, it required quite a bit of preparation.
1, 2, 3.
I believe we had 5 propane mortars in that sequence.
Basically a propane accumulator tank, and on cue we release a set amount of propane. We're going to try 30 pounds first here and try to blow a fireball right up behind the guy when he's being ratcheted out of the picture.
It gives you a very intense, large fireball, but it dissipates rather quickly. We had our stuntman, David, in a complete fire suit. He was on his own internal air supply, and he was wearing a life mask that resembled jet. So the rigging and the preparation for that, it takes quite a while to get it to that level, because the temperature actually exceeded 1,000 degrees right at the mouth of the nozzle, and he was no more than 6 feet away from that. So, and timing is critical, because once he's all suited up and ready to go, he only has about 1.5 minutes of air, which sounds like a lot considering the gag only lasts a few seconds, but by the time you zip up the clothing and get everything ready, roll all the cameras and so forth, you know, you've used up about 1 minute of that 1.5 minutes.
Don't you people ever learn?
The best way to determine what it looks like in this sequence is to pre-visualize it. The art department did a great job in making this G.I. Joe version of the sequence.
Don't you people ever learn?
And put this together, and it was cut and gave just a great template for everybody to understand what was needed in the sequence. And then from there, we made computer CG animatics to go over that and to work with that action. David Ebner and the people from Computer Cafe did the animation, did the whole sequence within, I think it was probably 3.5 weeks or so. Get the scans of the actors and make these motorcycles. And we're able to do a great sequence, which I think is good in that is something you haven't seen before. You've never really seen anybody grab these giant Kawasaki motorcycles and show the power that this person has in that manner. That sequence was shot at the beginning of September, and those were in the next preview, and really successful. People loved that, and it was something that you could read in a matter of half second and understand what it was, and becomes a signature shot and sort of an icon for a certain effect. The bullet cam shot, this was the first shot that we did. This was in the first day or two of photography. Oh yeah, you did a great job.
We're putting it on the B-roll.
We got it. We had to have a camera move that was slow enough to not be dangerous, but he needed to look like he's moving slowly. So we photographed this at, I think, 36 frames a second. The final result is the camera is moving somewhat rapidly towards him, but he is moving slow. And we altered the frame rate so he would move fast, slow, and fast. And then the camera moves over to the right and goes through the window. And there's actually a cut at that point in time, and then we take a panorama of that environment and then move the camera over it.
Hand closed.
Randomly, a wormhole that is microscopic can appear anywhere. The ability to open it, I think, 4 feet would take more energy than what exists in the universe.
Since we can't really open the microscopic wormhole, we decided to destroy or disassemble our characters or the people that we want to travel through the wormhole.
It's not a gentle beam me up from one place to another at all. It's very violent, and it's shaking, and it has a sense to it, a sense of violence that you only want to do this maybe once in your life, and that's the last time you'll ever do it again. We needed a 3-dimensional representation of Jet, so we use cyber scanning to do that. And this device actually records many, many, many points on Jet's face and gives a 3-dimensional model of Jet, his body, and his face. And that can then be manipulated in the computer in numerous ways.
Is this going to be an issue, being in black?
As you can see, when you cyber scan, because black absorbs the laser, and it needs to reflect off that surface to really capture a scan, we had to make all the costumes in white. And as you see, here are the cop outfits in white, and the laser can then bounce off that surface, and the computer can read where that is and give us a good scan. Film is evolutionary, and the whole process of making films is evolutionary. First time we looked at the reformation, we're looking up at the ceiling of this place called the clean room, and the three guys are coming almost as if they're on a carousel. Now, once we started working with that, it became apparent that that perspective didn't really work that well. When they were reforming, the fact that you were looking up and they were coming towards you had a certain dynamic to it, but it just didn't quite feel right. So that was altered. So after you do all this work, where the actors are just thrilled to death at being 20 feet in the air and swirling around on wires, they just love this. You look at it and say, boy, you know, it would be better if we did something else. We had them going left to right instead of all the way around. So sometimes you do it and it works really well, but sometimes you take that raw photography and you alter it in another way, and we actually use that photography at the end of the sequence. So it was used, it was just used in another manner.
Fresh fish. Got a pretty mouth. I am Eula. I'm nobody's bitch. You are mine.
Basically, Jet takes on 100 guys. The shot will pulse back from a single to this gigantic shot where we see hundreds of people going on top of this pyramid to fight him.
Timing is very important in this, and as you pull back, there'll be lightning bolts, there'll be searchlights, things like that really have to be contained within a certain area. But one of the things that's interesting on a technical level is that we do have a trade-off between live actors and CG actors. As you see, here is an animatic of the pullback. It's a very simple form, and then we start introducing just these little stick figures representing where the other prisoners are going to be. And then we add to it some more texture and some more detail, and then finally you get the fully animated, fully textured CG prisoners that are placed together. This is a movie that really had a lot of handoff between visual effects and the fight choreography. And I'm just personally really fascinated by that, by movement and how it works with visual effects. And so this was a really exciting subject. All the people on the fight team had a great understanding of what the visual effects were going to look like. So there weren't any real limitations as far as visualizing what this was going to be. I think a lot of the discussions we would have were based on what can be achieved and what can be done.
There's actually a story that's being told in the fight itself, and the American audience watching that, and that's why today it's so popular.
This movie starts off like a rocket and it just keeps going.
I will be the one.
There's a good jet, and there's a bad jet.
Hey.
And bad jet's got so much power that he moves at a different speed than everybody else. So he'll be punching guys at this speed, and they'll be moving like that, and everybody goes, oh yeah, wow, cool. And then when you go to make the film, you really regret pitching that part of the movie.
I'm here, one person. How can I fight myself? But the movie is magic. You know, you can make another guy in jelly fight with yourself.
There really only is one Jet Li, believe it or not, and we had to have two of them in this fight. So we had to duplicate Jet and at the same time have them not just be a split screen where, you know, two people are talking and you just film them separately. They're interacting, they're fighting with each other, moving all the time, changing positions. We're trying some new things with the computer in terms of face replacement that hopefully will allow us to seamlessly present two jets.
The mask that they created for the stunt guys to wear was too much. There was a lot of stuff on their face. That was one thing.
This is exactly what one of the old timers would do.
And when you do fight sequence, they sweat. It's really hard on them. And another one was they cut like a small hole so the stunt guys can see, but the hole they had was just too small, so they don't have any peripheral, vision. And they couldn't see up or down, they can only see straight forward. And as you can understand, when you do a fight sequence, you have to be able to see where the kick is coming from in order to block it.
We came up with a number of different other options. A split screen, where you have Jet on one side of the screen and then you have him do the same or corresponding action on the other side, and then you just split down the middle. There's another option that came about, the fact that you couldn't do a simple split screen on all these shots. Jet is making contact with himself, so he actually physically had to be fighting with himself, with another body, because there's just the fact of what it feels like when someone gets hit. It has to be on the frame. So we had Jet fight with a stunt double, and the stunt double looked somewhat like Jet, but his face, of course, doesn't look like Jet. And that's the real indicator of what the person looks like. It's in his eyes and his facial features.
Just hold it. Okay.
In the face replacements, we did a number of different techniques. We did head replacements, which is obviously one of the best ways to do it because it's the real actor, it's the real head.
Look at this. I think this shadow is too hard. The timing is, we got the timing working. It's like you see the line. Here it's more just, well, actually it's up there anyway, yeah, but still.
One of the issues about doing that is your performance, your scene can't be very long. Because if my head is moving around and up and down, and let's say that is 30 seconds long, when you photograph the actor's head that is going to be replaced on the stunt actor, that head has to do exactly the same thing. So it's very difficult to be in performance and have the same perspective and same expression and same motion throughout a long shot.
And cut!
Cut it!
Sometimes you're in situations where you have to simulate the look of the face, and you have to build a CG face and put it together. And as you see, this is an example of that, where you took the cyber scan of Jet's face and added different layers, different highlights, lowlights, textures to it, and build that up. So on top of the stunt double, you can get a CG face. That works to a certain extent. It works where it's fast-moving action. If it's very tight, if it's performance and really close, it's very tricky to make that look real. But if it's fast-moving and in the background, it's a technique that can work for certain shots. So that's how we created that.
In this case, both the double and Jet have to fight with equal proficiency. So you couldn't just throw a guy in there as a body. You really had to have the fight was really well choreographed and rehearsed for a long time before we got it right.
Because it's Jet fighting Jet, and this is where we use visual effects to help sell this. And so we would have Jet Li fight with one of the stunt double, and because it's a stunt double, the stunt double they use, they don't have the years of training like Jet does, so the fighting is a little bit different than Jet himself. And that's why it's really hard on Jet, because he has to play both parts.
Sometimes I change wardrobes 12 times a day. So you need to remember what is the good guy think about it, why he fighting this, what is his goal, what about bad guy think about it. So not just physical part, also internal mind, everything. You need to very clear both sides.
Hey guys, Lisa here. Did you know that Chen Zhen, a character originated by Bruce Lee in 1972's Fist of Fury, has become a recurring character in kung fu movies, and the role is entrusted to the very best performers. Across 5 decades, Chen Zhen has been played not only by Lee, but also by screen legends Jet Li and Donnie Yen. Who's your favourite martial arts actor? Let us know below.